For a first-century traveler, the road from Judea to Galilee was a grueling trek on foot. By the time the sun reached its peak, the unpaved paths became a landscape of blowing dust and blinding midday heat. Most travelers followed a standard detour, crossing the Jordan River to avoid Samaria entirely. This added days to their journey, bypassing a region filled with deep hostility. Jesus chose the direct path. He walked straight through Samaria, stopping at Sychar. This route served a purpose beyond geographic efficiency. He arrived at this specific destination because someone the rest of society avoided was waiting there. His destination was Jacob's Well. These ancient stone ruins mark a site reaching back to the patriarchs, where locals had drawn water for generations. Jesus arrived at noon. This was the hottest and most punishing time of day, the hours when most people sought shade rather than performing physical labor. Drawing water was a communal event, reserved for the cool of the morning or evening. A woman arriving at the well alone at midday was an intentional break from the norm. She chose the physical exhaustion of the noon sun to ensure she wouldn't encounter the judgment of her own community. By coming alone, she could avoid the whispers and stares of other women at the well. As she prepared to lower her jar, Jesus spoke. He asked this stranger for a drink of water. The request ignored the social walls of the time. Jewish men rarely spoke to Samaritans, and rabbis did not traditionally converse with women in public. In one sentence, Jesus disregarded the prevailing ethnic and gender separations of his day. He steered the conversation toward a gift he called living water, telling her that if she knew who he was, she would be the one asking him for a drink. The woman focused on the physical impossibility of the offer. She pointed out that Jesus had no bucket and the well was deep, hoping he could provide a water source that would end her daily, humiliating trips to the well. Jesus was describing a satisfaction that originated from within, an internal spring that would provide a sense of peace that the physical world could not offer. To bridge the gap between her physical thirst and her internal reality, Jesus told her to go call her husband and return. When she replied that she had no husband, he recounted the details of her life. She had been married 5 times, and the man she was currently with was not her husband. He knew her history of broken relationships and social shame. Yet he did not use this knowledge to condemn her. He stated the facts plainly, showing her that he saw her entire life and was still standing there. Knowing the truth of her past and continuing the interaction, Jesus proved that her failures did not exclude her from the conversation. He met her exactly where she was, without requiring her to fix her life before the encounter could begin. Feeling the weight of his insight, the woman tried to change the subject. She pivoted toward a safe, abstract theological debate about the correct location for religious worship. She pointed to Mount Gerizim, the peak seen here towering over the landscape. The Samaritans claimed this was the only legitimate place their ancestors worshipped. In contrast, the Jews maintained that Jerusalem was the only valid center for worship and sacrifice. This skyline represented the seat of their religious authority. People often use religious arguments and geographic borders to protect themselves. By debating which mountain was holier, she could avoid talking about her shame at the well. Jesus bypassed the debate entirely. He declared that the time for worshiping based on specific coordinates or ethnic lines was coming to an end. He defined a new way to connect with God, in spirit and truth. This is an internal posture that cannot be restricted by physical borders or human prejudice. This return to spirit and truth is the living water he promised. It makes a relationship with God accessible to anyone, anywhere, regardless of their social standing or their history. Society often pushes the broken to the outer edges, forcing them to walk alone in the heat of the day. But this encounter shows a different mission, one that crosses every hostile border to offer a lasting peace to those the rest of the world has rejected.